Alright, you are live.
Hey class, how are we doing today? Alright, so yesterday we were covering resumes, and today we're going to be going over the interview process a little bit so that we can continue to prepare ourselves for our jobs. So, what are some of the key points we learned about interviews last time we met? Michelle?
To always include your contact information so they know how to contact you.
Correct. Anybody else want to add on to that? Some of the very key natures of a resume. Right?
It needs to be neat, not cluttered.
Exactly. Because if you have too much information, that's just going to be overload, and you keep it concise and focused. Alright, so you all seem to have a pretty good knowledge of resumes, so we're going to have a little example interview here.
Alright, yes, that's a sometimes useful exercise, at least to figure it out. Go ahead. How much money do you make a year before taxes? Yeah, I'm actually not comfortable. Come on! We're doing the interview now, not you. Okay, here's a shout out of the cannon. Oprah, Barbara Walters, your wife. You gotta fuck one, marry one, kill one. Go! I think we're done here. Thank you. Mr. Huff, under your references, you listed Dale Dillback, which I know is this gentleman, but you also listed Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Yeah. Okay, but we are looking for people we can contact. We want to tell you the stuff we're not good at. Our weaknesses. So we're clear up front. Okay. We're not generally comfortable in an office setting, I would say. I get dubbed. I won't go into an office that's never been used before. I am no good for 11 a.m. I also get headaches from computers, so I can't be around them for too long. I take stuff. And if someone go up and down, we can tell better. I have a weakness for sweets. Other weaknesses? Slow learners? Or not particularly good listeners. That'll be a huge problem. We're also slow learners. That's the problem.
Alright, so who's seen the movie Step Brothers? Most of you have. Alright, so you know the story, they're going around trying to get jobs, and they keep blowing them. So we're going to analyze the little clip of interviews. So what did they do good?
They dressed up.
Yes, they dressed up, they looked presentable. Anything else?
But they almost overdressed. I've never wore a tux to a job interview.
True. But we're going to focus on what they did good, because they did do some things good. Very few. We're going to get more later at what they did wrong. But anything else we can add to what they did good? Kelsey?
They gave them a resume.
Yes, they did try and give them a resume, however it wasn't great, but they did try. They did submit a resume.
They seem confident in their flaws.
Yes, that's a very key point. That's going to be something we talk about a little bit later, but like knowing your flaws, like it was great how they went out and put themselves on the limb and said, here's what we don't do good. However, they got too in-depth and they don't do a lot of things good. So that hurt them there, but they did try. Alright, so now, what did they do wrong? Bo?
They probably too forthcoming with what they were not good at. They were not putting themselves in the good light.
True. Exactly. They didn't. They could have adapted it based on what the job they were applying for was focused on. Since they were applying for office job and they were terrible in office settings, probably not the best thing. Kelsey?
They didn't provide references or accurate references.
Yes. Yes. It is very important going along with what we learned last week in your resume building that you provide accurate, good resume or good references for your character. And then going back to Andrew's thing, also the whole point where dressing up in a tuxedo is a little over the top, especially if you're just trying to get an office worker job. Alright, so great. So anybody have an idea what a job interview is? Michelle?
I feel like a job interview is like maybe like a meeting where the boss is trying to interview and see like if you meet the qualifications for the job they're hiring for.
Good, good.
It's like a face-to-face meeting where the managers and people at the job position can get to know you and get a better feel for you other than what you put on your resume.
Very good, very good. So it's a personal conference that allows employers to assess the job applicant and the applicant to assess the prospective employer. So this gives them the opportunity to meet face-to-face, actually get to know you more than just what's on a sheet of paper, which is very important because you're going to want to hire more than just a sheet of paper. Because anybody can write down anything, make themselves look good, but the interview is to back up that everything you put down is factual. Alright, so there are 3 types of interviews. You have a pattern interview, which is your most basic, typical interview one-on-one with the boss, and it focuses on common interview questions that you can find online in any situation, like who are you, what do you do good, what do you do bad kind of deal. And then a non-direct interview is more of a flexible format. It's kind of informal, and like how we talked about going around to give out your resume at job fairs, sometimes you can start the interview process there by having this non-direct interview, by just talking to them, communicating with them, showing that you have good communication skills is very important to employers, especially if you're in a communication field, for sure. And then a group interview. So this is what you see for like a big maybe CEO interview, where you have all the shareholders in one group, and they're going to be the interviewer for the single person trying to get the job. So it's a panel of members, and they take turns asking questions of the applicant. This form is not used too much, just because it requires a lot of attention and a lot of time and a lot of commitment for multiple people, not just one person. And it's also very intimidating, so they try not to use that too much. Alright, so why do employers do interviews? This gives them an opportunity to determine particular qualifications and traits they see within the applicants. So whether they're personable, whether they can, as the last little bullet says, think on their feet, and whether they can back up what they really say on paper. And it gives the employers an opportunity to verbally explain the job, because you can write down a job listing in a online or in a magazine, and that doesn't give you all the details you need because it's going to be a short little snippet. But once you get to the interview process, you have the opportunity to go more in depth about what the topic is going to, about what the job is going to entail. It also allows them to form an opinion about the candidate. So from the paper, you can be like, oh, that's a really great candidate. They volunteer 200 hours a year. They go to church. They do a whole bunch of things within the community. But then you can meet them and see that that's probably not true. They don't really seem like a go-getter. And then it allows for clarification points on the resume or on job applications. So if you weren't too clear about what you put in your resume or how you worded your answer on a job application, this gives you time, this gives the employer the opportunity to come back and maybe re-ask you that question to get a different answer, one that's a little more clear to them. So, interviews are also good for the applicant, because kind of going back to the employer telling you what the job is, it gives you a better idea of what you're going to be doing within this job. And then it allows them to explain what they can do for the company. So at this point, you would sell yourself, sell what your abilities and what you can do to improve that company. And it also allows you to relate specific skills you have. Say you're trying to become a farm manager at a pig farm. You have, say, here you could say, I grew up around pigs my entire life. I have a background knowledge. I know how to give vaccines. I know how to doctor. I know how to create feed rations. So, the next point, after what it's good for you, is presenting yourself. So these are this is a little picture of what not to wear. You don't want to wear anything that is somewhat revealing. You want to dress up, not dress down. So t-shirts are no-go, Athletic shoes, no go. Uggs, no go. Low cut tops, no go. Jeans, because these are things you wear every day, and you want to make an impression on the employer. So instead, you should be wearing a skirt or dress with a nice little blazer over, or at least a nice blouse. And guys should be wearing, depending on the specifics of the interview process, you should be either wearing business casual or business professional, which basically the only difference there is you throw a coat on if it's professional. So, I've gone around and put out some little snippets of paper at your table. And as a group, I want you guys to come together and group what will prepare you for a good interview, and group together what will make a bad interview. So, you guys take about a couple minutes or so, and as a team work together and divide them into 2 columns.
It's gonna hang that.
Coming to the interview with multiple resumes. America, this is bad.
So they went to bed at 10 p.m. not 4.
I think that
Yeah,
compares to this one.
Yeah, as you will notice that they all compare. There's one that compares to the other of what you should do and what you should not do.
That one goes again.
How are you guys doing over here?
Yeah, we're done.
Going to Wayne Company Homes.
Where would it go?
There's Mr.
No, that was good.
Oh.
Business better.
Alright, is everybody done? Okay. So, Bo, tell me a little bit about what you guys did to formulate how you column your group up.
Well, we kind of thought about like logic, like what you were talking about, like being, like dressing for the time and also being prepared.
Okay. Does anybody in this group have anything to add to that? Besides logistically doing what's right? Alright, so why is the arrival time and differences so important? I mean, one guy showed up before his interview. They both showed up before their interview. So why is the arrival time an important factor? Rebecca?
Because showing up like right beforehand doesn't look like you care as much as showing up 15 minutes before.
That's true. And also, your employer probably has a hectic day scheduled, and even if you are scheduled for, say, 2 o'clock, he might have an opening right before that he could get you in, and he might have other meetings that he's got to prepare for. So if you get there early, that gives him the opportunity to see that you're attentive and that you're willing to be there a little bit early, do a little bit extra, and work into his schedule, even though you're scheduled for 15 minutes later. Okay. So why is it important to have more than one resume when you go to an interview if you've already submitted a resume to get the interview? Andrew?
Well, when you go to an interview, you may speak with different people. So multiple copies of a resume is always good to hand them something. So that way they can keep it in front of you while they're doing the interview. That way they can also look back at your resume. Some employers may not care about beforehand.
Exactly. Anybody have anything else to add? Yeah, the key point that I was looking for here was that the employer might have lost it, they might not have printed it out. So if they, like, oh, I remember you, but I don't remember everything you put on your resume, it's easier to just have another resume printed instead of having to try and list it through your head, everything that you had in your resume that you wanted to explain to the employer. Right? And so why is it important to know the company before you go into the interview? And
So you're preparing for an audience, so you know what they like.
exactly. You kind of get a background of the company, a background of where they're coming from, so you can prepare yourself for the type of questions that you might get. And also to go a little more in depth to that, it will even allow you to prepare your own questions that you can have for them. Because it shows a lot of initiative if you were to go through and do all that research and then have questions for them. So it's not just a one-way type of dialogue where you're just answering their questions and they're just asking them questions. Very good, guys, very good. Okay, so we're already broke up into 2 groups, and we're going to stay in those 2 groups. And I've got some sample interview questions that I'm going to pass out to you guys, and you guys are going to take turns bouncing them off each other so you guys can get some practice and some feels of what these questions are going to be about. And so one person can, you guys can either do a group interview setting, or you guys can just do one-on-one. So the group interview would be 2 people interviewing one, and the one-on-one would just be a third person observing. So here's your list of interviewing questions. You guys can decide how you want to do that on your own.
Me? Why me?
Do it step by step.
Because you guys are interviewing.
Tell me about yourself.
There will be no stepbrother style, no interviewing together. You're interviewing solely, and if it's a group interview, then it's 2 people interviewing one
Okay,
person.
so you mean you again? Okay.
And feel free to create your own questions, but make sure to save those because I'll ask them if they create new questions.
My name is Andrew Beck. I'm an agriculture education and communications major at the University of Florida. I am active in Collegiate FFA. I'm also active in the agriculture fraternity at the University of Florida.
Okay.
So
What are your
I would
biggest
continue to
strengths?
go into specify what it is. Yeah, and then I am from Deltona, Florida, which is a small town in Volusia County in Central Florida.
What are your biggest strengths?
Man. Alright, well, my biggest strengths probably have to be, I'm a talented speaker, I have great communication skills, both verbally and written communication. Yeah.
I'm gonna be very honest with you.
Why did you leave your last job?
What are your career goals?
What?
Your career
Actually, I left my last job, I transferred to the University of Florida from hometown school, and there actually isn't a Staples, because that's where I worked for before. There isn't a Staples in the city of Gainesville, so they weren't able to train me yesterday.
What are your career goals?
After you guys finish up this question, switch roles and ask different questions.
Currently working in retail,
I don't think so.
Okay.
as a part-time job while I was in college, but
Interview goals.
I eventually went to become an agriculture educator in the state of Florida.
Well, so tell me about your
Teach high school students.
Okay. Well, my name's Bo. I'm a student at the University of Florida.
Maybe no. Okay.
I have
What?
What job is she interviewing for?
a lot of international experience. And
Bass Pro Shops.
Okay, thank you.
and they're
Why
hard.
do you wanna work here?
Well, I really like Bass Pro Shops. I've been in
What?
Because I wanna
and
make
I
America.
feel like I know a lot about the
Good, good.
industry and
What
the
exactly
clientele that you guys are trying
would
to
you do
reach.
here?
Well,
Okay, Rebecca.
what we're gonna do is
What would
great,
you say
because I know the
your
best
greatest
people,
weakness
and
is?
you know, they make huge, I know the best people, because,
But why
This
do
is
you want to?
definitely a good question.
I want to work here because, America is great, like, because we have the
I
wall,
get probably I
So you
use
keep saying
skills.
that, you're not saying
Because
it.
it started.
Oh, you do calculation. What are your career goals?
My career goals are to rise up in the company.
What do your
and work hard
coworkers,
to
current
make sure
coworkers
that
say
I
about
come
you?
to the-
We all get along great. We don't have any issues. They would say that I'm more
What kind of
likely to
salary
get
do you
there early and, stay late usually,
Yes.
and never call in.
I'm looking for a salary that is adequate and comparable to my last job.
Okay.
Which is-
Rebecca, why should we hire you?
Alright guys, ask this last question and then we'll switch roles again.
Because I am qualified for the job, I work
Okay.
the job and I do a very good job. And,
Put yourself there.
And you can just go ahead and switch.
I was in a real interview.
So now you're interviewing the person who has yet to be interviewed.
We can interview her.
I'm gonna interview you. Just pick, just start.
Do you know anybody who works for us?
My dream job is to
McDonald's.
work with a university,
Corporate McDonald's.
doing research and teaching at a university level, college students.
Oh, you went to go to Zurich? No, I did not actually.
Why should we?
How long do you expect to work for
Did
us
you
to
actually hire me because I
I,
had vacations?
until I graduate college, and so that'd be another,
Your customer success.
at the very least 2 years. So I'd
What
be,
is your grade? We can.
My
what kind,
greatest weakness
what kind of
is-
salary are you looking for?
just an adequate,
Sure.
salary that meets my financial needs and competes with my current salary.
What do your coworkers say about you?
That I'm not working.
What do you know about our organization?
Insurance rates.
It's good quality.
Yeah, unless the best for
What is your dream job?
It's private and agriculture teacher.
no, that's for sure.
Alright guys, let's finish up one more question.
I couldn't think of anything.
What do people say about you?
Shoot,
All right.
what
Are you
else?
applying for other jobs?
What do you-
Yes.
I do currently have
What
a
kind?
position out at a restaurant,
Just
but
get
this
the
is my
information
top
for me.
choice.
Doing good?
Alright, so
That's all
When
of it.
you do that,
are we all done?
like something in the same field. Like we want to find somewhere retail. We make sure that you're.
Well, I work at a restaurant now, so
Wow.
it's a restaurant.
Okay, so let's bring it back together and tell me, Andrew, one thing that you thought was difficult about this activity.
Well, you called me already, so I don't know why I raised my hand. But I felt that it was difficult for the interviewers to interview the interviewee without knowing exactly what company, what job, or anything like that we were interviewing for. So some of these questions
That's fair.
needed a kind of guide.
That's fair, but did you think on your feet
Yes.
and make something up?
Yes.
Very good. Show what was something difficult you guys experienced over here besides what Andrew said.
And probably, I think of my,
Thinking on your feet. So how would you get better at that?
well, like you said, researching the companies, like if they ask questions pertaining like, oh, why do you want to work for us? And you kind of have an idea, like, why like this and that about the company, so I would say putting research into the company.
Would you also consider practicing,
Yes.
like going over these interview questions? I know I kind of threw it on the spot for you today and didn't give it before, but when you're going into a real job interview where it really counts, maybe putting in a night of practice or a couple days of practice, just going over what you would say for the common questions that you can find on the internet. Because if you Google it, there's like lists of hundreds of common interview questions which you can use as a stepping stone to kind of participate. Did anybody come up with any new questions? If not, that's fine. Okay. So what was easy about this activity? Michelle?
Being the interviewer. That's
Okay, being an interviewer.
Yeah, you do there's other questions to ask.
Kelsey?
No, sorry.
Yeah. Do you have
The more like common, like personal questions, not the questions that require research on the company. They were easier to answer than others.
Exactly, and that should always be the case because all you're doing is telling them about yourself, and like, even if you find it kind of intimidating, kind of hard, like I don't want to brag about myself, but that's what they're asking you to do is brag about yourself, tell them what you've accomplished, tell them what you can do for their company. All right, very good, very good. So, as a final little wrap up here, we're gonna go. What did we learn today? What was one thing that we learned today from this activity, presentation? But
To make sure to be prepared for something.
can you elaborate some more on that?
make sure to be dressed for success and to have the tools to succeed.
Okay, well, hit dress for success very good. That's exactly, you don't wanna go in looking like you just walked off the street. You wanna actually look like you're there when you need business and you're gonna get stuff done. Andrew?
We need to do in-depth research about the company that we're gonna have the job interview with, just so we don't get thrown off on certain questions.
Exactly. And it also gives you the opportunity to do what?
Ask questions back.
Exactly. Rebecca?
You need to practice and prepare really well for an interview, because it's an important part of getting the job.
Exactly. Anybody can look well on paper, but unless you wow them in the interview, you're probably not gonna get the job. Alright, as a quick little exit slip, can I get you guys to come up with your very own question that you would ask somebody that you're going to potentially employ? We'll take a couple minutes there, hand them in, and we'll be done for the day.
And then for sake of time, let's just go ahead and,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
pretend like you wrote your exit slip, and then we'll move forward. So, Austin, let's go ahead and kind of talk about your lesson, what you thought about that, and then while we're doing that, Kelsey, you can go ahead and get set up. So Austin, how about something that you liked about your lesson, and then maybe something in which you think you can improve?
I liked that it was relevant and kind of logically followed making a resume, because it's one of the next steps in obtaining a job. And I thought that everybody came together real well and kind of went with the flow and was able to create their little columns and ask each other questions in a very mature manner. What I didn't like is that I swear that I previewed the video and moved it to where there was no profanity left, but I missed one word in there, so I would adapt that. But I did like how that was a very common movie that many people had seen, so it was a very good interest. It brought their interest into the topic of the day, because they could relate to seeing the movie, and then they could relate that back to the topic of the day.
Good. All right, comments for Austin?
I really enjoyed the discussion.
And I should have given you guys a company that you were mock interviewing for.
We met her up.
So you guys could get the on the fly.
Other comments? Or suggestions?
Be good, bro.
Yeah, that was really
With your slides didn't have that much, so it was really easy to follow.
We have plenty of like material and stuff to do, like deductions, like kind of repetitive of the lesson.
Yeah, I think overall you did a really good job. I think kind of what you pointed out, that video, I think that was the major mishap in the interest approach. You know, that happens from time to time.
I literally just watched it, but I guess
Yeah.
I
So-
just missed that. You got distracted.
Yeah, or it could have been another video that looked very similar, because when I teach 30/30, I teach interviewing skills, and that's actually the video that I use for an interest approach. And they have a bunch of different ones, so I had to like watch it, and then there's one of them that takes that whole portion of it. You could marry one, and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So I would do that.
And yeah, like you said, because it wasn't the exact one I had copied it in, so that could have been it.
Any other comments? So I do have one more thing, and I'll ask if you guys agree with me or not. So I think overall you did a good job as far as the lecture portions. You did a lecture. I think you could have included more questioning within your lecture. So your lecture was just, you kind of gave us information, which is good, it's really efficient. I think just having a couple of questions in there to ask the participants, I think that could have made your lecture portion just a little bit better. And then I really like the activities, because you use a variety of different activities, so the different situations, and then like where they have to choose either right column or left column, and that last activity, where it's like the practice mock interview, just a real short questionnaire. And then the summary was really good, because you summarize everything, and then you had to do an independent reflection, so it's kind of a group summary and then independent reflection. So nice job.
Oh, you did that?
Yeah.
I think I put up my own question.
What was my time?
You were like 26 minutes.
That's fine, that's just why I kinda cut you
Yeah.
off there, 'cause I was like, well, that'd be 28 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, you were literally at like 26 minutes.
Which is good.
Alright, Counselor, you ready?
I believe so.
Okay. You can start whenever you're ready.
Alright, well, this is our food science application 2 class. We're almost done on the unit, working on some of the last lessons. Alright, so for a piece of candy, who could tell me what we talked about in our last class? What was our lesson about? Give you a hint. We talked about food crisis.
Food recall?
Food recalls, yep, that was one thing we talked about. Alright, what else?
I don't remember the exact name of it off the top of my head, but it was about the food virus that instituted food recall because it got so many people sick.
Okay, I believe you're talking about the listeria story
Yes.
we read about on cantaloupes. There we go. Alright, any other details in the lessons you can remember?
Did we go over egotism?
No, we hadn't talked about that yet.
The steps of what to do in this recall.
Yeah, so when there's a food call, we have steps, alright? Rebecca's racking up on TV over here. Alright, so we talked about food crisis management, and a food crisis is when we have a shortage of food, and some things that lead up to a food shortage are droughts, flooding. We talked about bioterrorism and war could cause a food shortage, and then we talked about foodborne diseases and illnesses that would affect some food shortages. Okay. So, leading into today, we're going to talk about how you prevent a foodborne illness, some steps of prevention, and we're also going to look at a case study about food irradiation. Okay, so 7 steps to use at home to prevent foodborne illnesses in your own home. And the first step is to not leave food sitting out that needs to be refrigerated or freezed. If you go to the grocery store and you have food that needs to be put in the refrigerator or freezer, put it in right away and don't leave it sitting out. Okay, the next step is to use a meat thermometer to make sure your food is cooked thoroughly. So when you're cooking with meats, they need to get to a certain temperature in order to kill all the bacteria and stuff that could be on them. And you want to make sure that you do that. Okay. Wash your hands at least 20 seconds with warm, soapy water before and after handling raw meats, fruits, and vegetables. So before you handle your food and after you handle your food, in case there was something on there, you want to make sure you have clean hands when you're cooking, of course. Okay. Wash utensils and disinfect surfaces before and after uses. So of course, the same reason you don't know what's on the food and you don't know what's on your surfaces that it could affect you. Don't defrost food on the kitchen counter. Instead, use the refrigerator, cold running water, or the microwave oven to zap the thing. So you don't want to just leave stuff sitting out on the counter, because when they fall out, that can mess up your food and possibly cause you to get sick. Alright. Don't let food marinate at room temperature. Instead, keep them refrigerated. So when you're marinating your food, don't leave it out. And then don't overpack the refrigerator. So I kind of tend to like load my refrigerator with a lot of leftovers. I'm sure y'all do too as college students, but that could be very dangerous when it comes to contamination. If one thing gets a foodborne disease, it can spread. All right, so now we're going to talk about some production sanitation techniques. Does anyone have any idea that on a production large-scale basis what they do to prevent disease in their factories?
Pasteurization.
Pasteurization, that's good with milk and stuff like
Don't they have, like, say it's a vegetable plant, they have a disinfectant spray that all the vegetables go through?
Yeah.
And either-
that? They have some sprays. Let's see. Okay, so steam, like a hot steam bath would be one way to kill stuff to dirt your lives. Chlorinated chemicals, like you were saying. High pressure wash downs. And irradiation, which is going to lead us into a case study that I have down for you to look at. I think it's pretty interesting. Alright, so I'm going to have you get into groups of 2, find a partner.
The 9 hamburgers.
So, with your partner, you can read out loud to each other, or you can just read silently. And then I'm going to have you